very good evening to you. You are watching Biz First in Focus right here on TV1. Now this evening we have a very eminent guest from a long way here from Sri Lanka who is in the country to promote university education in the country. Good evening and welcome to the show, Mr. John Rees, the Vice Chancellor of the University of Northumbria. Good evening to you, sir.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me on your show.
Let me first ask you, now Northumbria University, right up their name every time we talk about university education all around the world. I know a few friends of mine who are affiliated to Northumbria University. Can you tell me a bit about this university and why this is having a name for itself that is this huge?
Okay, well, thank you very much to give me the opportunity to talk about Northumbria. I know that Northumbria is well established in Sri Lanka and certainly very well established back in the UK, which is the home of the university.
Yes.
The origins of the university actually go back to the 1790s, so it's actually a very old institution. But as a formal university, it actually became a sort of a university in 1992. So it is long established, and we've always had a history around strength around teaching and learning, also strong links with industry, but increasingly very, very strong research links as well. Now, whilst we're top 10 in the UK with regard to the size of our university, with over 34,000 students, actually our position is becoming increasingly global. Right. So we're having partnerships around the world, and for example in Sri Lanka we had partnership for over 13 years, and we've graduated over 1,500 students. So I guess that's starting to be why the name of Northumbria is well known in Sri Lanka and other parts of the world. So, for example, we are the top provider of English degrees in Hong Kong. So it's not just in Sri Lanka, it's in Hong Kong, in Singapore, and other parts of the world as well. That
brings me to an interesting point. Now, so how do you manage the quality of all these universities that are around the world? Obviously, the United Kingdom, Northumbria University will maintain its standards. But when it comes to all these other partnerships that you have, how can you assure their quality, their standards will be maintained as per your standards at United Kingdom?
Well, that's a very good question, and obviously a lot of questions that students and their parents want to understand. People will be aware that British education is well respected around the world. And that's partly because of the standards of the actual universities in the UK, but it's also because we have very strong oversight from the government within the UK. Right. We have something called the QAA in the UK, Quality Assurance Association, which has very, very stringent standards, not just about the students who are actually studying for our degrees in the UK, but any other place around the world that they're studying. Right. And they're absolutely clear that the standards have to be equivalent, where we have internal and external examiners in the UK. They also have oversight over all of the assignments, the assessments in places like Sri Lanka and Hong Kong and Singapore as well. We have staff assigned to the particular partners who work very, very closely, and we also engage with the partners, so we actually input into their education. So it's not pure delivery within the market, it's actually a blended delivery between the local market and our UK lecturers and professors.
Right. Now I understand that you've started a new stream here in the country with a new partner. Can you explain about this as well?
Well, new is an interesting word. We've actually been working with BMS within Sri Lanka for 13 years, but you're absolutely right. We've always had a business background within those qualifications. We've moved into the sciences area, but the launch this last couple of weeks has been around the banking and finance area, where we've launched a new completion degree program in banking and finance, which is the first in Sri Lanka. And will allow for students who've got up to level 5 qualifications in banking and finance now to complete a full degree with a UK provider along with BMS.
So that's great news for students here in Sri Lanka, obviously. Now, can you tell me about this completion degree? What is the future of you said individual who has studied up until class 5 of this particular degree? What is going to be their future if they have? Can they join halfway? Can you give me an elaborative response to this, please?
Yes.
I'm interested personally.
Of course. Well, we might see if we can talk after the show and see if we can get you signed up. Many students complete higher national diplomas, HNDs, and BMS certainly provides an HND in this area, but there are other providers of HNDs as well. And so that takes them up to what's called level 5, would be the second year of a degree programme. Now, this banking and finance BSc Hons is effectively the last year of the degree programme. So we've checked against the previous qualifications, the previous subject area that they've studied, and the final year then will give them about risks in the banking and finance industry, as well as research methods and all of these sorts of areas, and then enable them to go out into what is a thriving banking and finance industry in Sri Lanka, and also opportunities for Sri Lankans perhaps overseas in the banking and finance area as well. So it will give them employment opportunities.
Right. So now we know that, as I told you earlier, you said that you have a standard method to control the quality of the overall service providers and your partners at the Northumbria University. Now you've traveled the world. You have links to, you said, almost all the countries in the world who have partners who are partners at the Northumbria University. How do you see the situation in our country? Do you think that there is a good trend for education in our country, or do you think we should improve? What is your view on this?
I guess I wouldn't want to overstep the mark and tell people in Sri Lanka how to run their education system, but what I can say is from our experience, in terms of dealing with the partner that we've worked with, BMS, for 13 years, the quality is absolutely exceptional. We have partnerships in many parts of the world, as I said earlier. Perhaps not all countries in the world. That might be overstating our reach. But actually, in terms of the outcomes, in terms of the degree classifications, for example, firsts and upper seconds, BMS is amongst the very best in the world. The students work incredibly hard, and the local tutors working with the Northumbria staff do an exceptional job in taking them to the very, very highest level. And employment outcomes for Northumbria University is incredibly important. It's part of our ethos. So in the UK, where there are 140 universities, we are 9th in the UK in terms of employability of our graduates. And this is critically important to us, whether we're talking about Sri Lanka, in Hong Kong, or in Singapore, or other markets. And BMS does an exceptional job in ensuring that our graduates get good paid employment after they've finished their degrees. So
this rank that you were talking about, being 9th, does this apply to your partners as well? Do you think that a Sri Lankan student who has completed the degree with a partner of the Northumbria University has the same capability of being employed all around the world?
That clearly depends on the visa situation, but in terms of the capabilities of the student, I don't doubt that. If a student is getting a first-class degree in Sri Lanka, I'm absolutely confident that's equivalent to a first-class degree engaged by our own students back in the UK. They are every bit as good as those students. It then just down to different policies and visa, etc., in terms of access to roles. But these are exceptional students.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rees. With that, we will go into a short commercial break. We will come back. Stay with us. This is Biz First in Focus. Welcome back. You're watching Biz First in Focus right here on TV1. This evening we have Mr. John Rees, the Vice Chancellor of the University of Northumbria. Now, we were discussing, Mr. Rees, about the overall standards of the university and their partners. Let me step out from focusing on the Northumbria University and ask you, Mr. Rees, now when it comes to private education in countries, especially in Sri Lanka, you know that the state universities, we are a country with free education. So the state universities and the private universities have a bit of a situation going on. Does this apply elsewhere? Do you see this trend in any other country, or is it just something that is seen here?
I think there are many markets around the world where the state provision as far as universities is concerned is very strong. And in many European countries, for example, there is very little in terms of private provision. Within the UK, just as a comparison with Sri Lanka, the market for private providers in higher education is growing. And various government policy changes over the last 10 years is actually encouraging more competition within the marketplace. So I can see parallels between what's happening in Sri Lanka at the moment and also what's been happening in the UK, where people can provide their own degrees, not just with partner universities, but they can provide their own degrees in their own right. In the US, of course, there are private universities as well as public universities. So I don't think Sri Lanka is unique in having the combination system, and probably a little bit of friction sometimes between the two parts of the sector.
So there is also the point that the British had the Brexit. So does this impact in any way the standards or the service that you provide at the Northumbria University?
It makes no difference whatsoever in terms of standards and service. I think what's a little bit unclear at the moment, and I think most of the media commentary would understand this, is exactly the impact for the UK education sector in the next 10 years, for example. I think within the next 3 or 4 years the situation is pretty clear in that at the moment all the UK people, and 52% of the UK people have done, is register a desire to leave the EU. What needs to happen next is the UK government needs to decide when they press Article 50 of the Lisbon Treaty, or put that into place, because then that is the official confirmation that we will be leaving, and then the clock will start ticking over a 2-year period where there will be exit negotiations.
So obviously the university at present are thinking about the future plans as well when it comes to, let's say, a situation where this goes through.
Absolutely. I think it's very fair to say I was involved very closely in all of the discussions prior to the Brexit vote. It was a surprise. It was a surprise within the UK media. It was a surprise within the UK university sector. But any professional organisation, and we are a professional organisation, needed to plan carefully for any eventuality. So we had many scenario planning meetings to look at this. So now we are putting those in place. The unknowns for us are the government policy negotiations which are likely to take place with the EU, and those are not going to take place really until the next year or later. So we don't quite understand the impact, but as far as student numbers are concerned, international student numbers, those are looking healthy. EU student numbers coming to the UK are still looking healthy, and we're still gaining grants from the research grants from the EU as well. Right. So at the moment, no change. In the future, we're not quite so sure.
Yes. So let me zoom in to you personally and ask you, what can you tell me about innovative marketing?
Well, innovative marketing should be innovative always. That's what the first thing I should say. And I think I should also say that I've had a background in industry, working in marketing prior to academia, and I think that gives me a unique insight into both marketing within industry and also marketing within academia. Marketing should be innovative. Marketing should be exciting. Marketing's about delivering new products and services which are meeting people's needs, and therefore there should be an element of innovation involved. My own personal area and focus on marketing, which was an innovation probably about 15 years ago or 20 years ago, is something called relationship marketing. And the whole idea being that we're moving away from the single transaction where it's all about selling things to people who then don't buy again, to a point where people are buying and repeat buying. They're happy customers, they spread the word, they tell other people. I guess rather like the relationship that we've got with BMS, which has been a long-term relationship, but BMS with their customers, their students, many of which have had brothers or sisters or cousins who've also worked through BMS. That is relationship marketing. It doesn't mean there's lots of advertising. It doesn't mean to say there's lots of spend on TV and commercials and things like this, but it's actually a kind of quiet and powerful form of marketing which relies on word of mouth.
So, sir, now when it comes to employment, when it comes to getting jobs for people who are educated, now we know that Sri Lanka also has a certain unemployment rate. India has a very high unemployment rate, our very good neighbor. What trends do you see in the world when it comes to new jobs? What sectors do the youth want to go and enroll themselves in? What is the trend in the world at present?
Okay.
Well, since we spoke about marketing, and I wanted to link it to the trends in the world.
I understand. I'm well aware that there are issues in Sri Lanka in terms of some graduate employment issues, and therefore that's why we've got a particular focus, both as university but also through BMS, in terms of employability. And what I am very pleased to say is that our students who complete degrees, Northumbria degrees in Sri Lanka with BMS, actually all get jobs. So that's the key thing. Now, I can't say the same for other students who are gaining degrees elsewhere or qualifications elsewhere. Always in a market where there's a lot of competition, if you've got a quality CV, if you've got a quality degree, you're in a better position than other people. And I think gone are the days where just having a degree is enough in the marketplace, because there's so much competition. In the UK as well, so this is not a problem which is specific to Sri Lanka, there is graduate unemployment. There are people who've got degrees from UK universities who are working in supermarkets filling shelves, and that is not a good situation to be in. But that's not an issue for Northumbria graduates in the UK. So I think many students in the UK are thinking quite carefully about where they study and the degree they study. Not perhaps studying something which everyone has studied already, or perhaps isn't very relevant to the jobs market. I think the business and management area is still very buoyant. Certainly the banking and finance area is buoyant, and financial services around the world is one of the big growth areas. So certainly as a university, internationally as well as at home, we see the accounting, the finance, the banking areas all being very buoyant in terms of employment. So I don't doubt with this new programme that we've launched in the last couple of weeks that the employment prospects will be excellent in that particular area.
Very interesting. Now, this new program that you've started here, why this particular institute? And why this particular program? Is there a trend in the country for it to be started? Do you think that there will be a demand in the country for this particular degree program? Why specifically a degree in this criteria?
Well, it's a good question, and let me just say a little bit of background before I answer it.
Yes.
I've worked for Northumbria University for about a year now, and I was asked to look at the international strategy. And one of the aspects of the international strategy which I felt was lacking was our university's willingness to listen to trends in the marketplace, to the needs of the marketplace, and to develop programs fitted for particular markets.
Right.
Now, this programme in banking and finance, so the BSc in banking and finance, came as a request from the local marketplace after BMS had consulted with stakeholders, so employers within the banking and finance sector, and therefore we sat down, we had conversations about demand in the market, trends in the marketplace, the fact that students at the moment only had up to level 5 qualifications and no way of getting a degree after that, and so therefore we decided that we would provide this completion award within the Sri Lankan market in order to meet that market demand. So we are very, very confident that actually there is quite a pent-up demand where students have already got their HND qualifications or are about to complete them, and in the past have not had chance to complete a degree. One thing that we're very, very cautious around is actually having too many students completing this degree too quickly, because we want to maintain the quality.
Right.
We want to make sure that a Northumbria degree is an absolute quality standard within the Sri Lankan market. So we'll probably have to cap numbers. We think the demand is going to be very strong, and we'll probably have to cap numbers and be quite careful in terms of the growth.
Right.
So we not only gradually grow the programme, but it's also seen as an absolute gold standard within the market.
Right. With that, we will have to go into another commercial break. Stay with us. This is First in Focus. Welcome back. You are watching First in Focus. As I told you earlier, we have a very eminent guest with us, the Vice Chancellor of the Northumbria University, Mr. John Rees. Now, Mr. Rees, we were talking about this particular degree program that you have initiated in our country. Can you tell me about, obviously, a degree program in any international university would be a costly affair. Can you tell me about the costs involved in this degree program?
I don't think there's necessarily need to get into the specifics, but what I do know, talking closely with our partner but also stakeholders at the launch event last night, is that they think that the pricing is very, very affordable within the marketplace. In fact, as I was saying a little bit earlier, we are wanting to make sure that we actually manage the demand, because we think it's actually going to be very, very popular. So it is going to be affordable within the marketplace for those students out there who have completed HNDs around the banking and finance area or are about to complete degrees.
So this particular program that we've commenced in the country is definitely unique to our country. This is the first time that this is there in our country in an affiliation or in with partnership with the Northumbria University. Do you have this sort of degree program in the region, in the South Asian region, or is this a first as well when it comes to that aspect?
I'm pleased to say this is a first within the region. Perhaps it shouldn't be the first within the region. Perhaps we should have actually had it in place. But this is an area of innovation. The banking and finance area and the sector is growing very rapidly. And as a university provider, we're trying to make sure that we are keeping up a pace with the needs of that sector in terms of their human resource requirements. So yes, it's a first in Sri Lanka, but yes, it's a first in the South Asian region as well.
Do you think that it being a first is a unique opportunity for the students in this region or in Sri Lanka for this example, or do you think that we are a bit behind the world?
No, I don't think Sri Lanka is behind the world at all, actually. And I think it is an opportunity to differentiate those students in what is quite a crowded marketplace. Other students who are completing things like business and management with BMS also, because it's a good UK degree, they are differentiated in the marketplace. But this gives an extra opportunity to differentiate the students in what is a buoyant sector. The banking and finance area is a growth area.
So very quickly, sir, let me ask you a final message to all the students who might be watching this program today. A final message from you with regard to university education and their future goals. What do you have to say to them?
I think that people need to choose universities carefully, and they need to choose degree programs carefully. No degree, no area is cheap, but it is actually an investment. We believe that we are a well-placed UK and international university working with a tried and tested provider in the local market. I guess the dimension that I'd like to leave people with is that there is an opportunity through studying with BMS, not just on the banking and finance area, on other programs, to not only study in Sri Lanka, but also to actually have a period of their studies in the UK as well. And that also gives an extra opportunity to differentiate students in the marketplace. Employers do appreciate some international experience, and we offer both a study in Sri Lanka and also in the UK.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rees, for joining us on BizFirst in Focus, and I hope the program that you've commenced in our country will be a success. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We hope to join you next week, Tuesdays at 10:30 p.m, same time, same place as promised. Join us next week as well as we bring you another eminent guest as we talk about the new trends in the business sector. Thank you very much. I'm Chaturanga Puarachi.